Okay, what we're going to be looking at is biscuit and packaging design, and for the most part when you look at a package of a biscuit you will see that it's rectangular in shape. Right, the vast majority of them are, and the colours, there's a main logo, there's a main graphic, there's technical information on it, and on the back there's things like barcodes and ingredients and calories and all that type of thing. So there is actually quite a lot of information goes into it. You'll also notice that your supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl are quite fly in that they'll take an existing product, in this case Oreos, and they'll rename it Neos, where they've kept two of the original letters, they've kept the same colours, the same shape of biscuit, and they've called it something else called a Neo. So we're going to use something similar in that we're going to make a package, and our package is going to be made up of 4 sides with 2 ends on it. I'm going to ignore most of the other flaps here, so I'm ignoring most of these. So when I look at this, you can see that we've got 2 ends. Now in this box, 2 of them are virtually identical, that one there and that one there. So I'm going to home in on that, and I'm saying if I look at that, that's the shape of my box that I'm going to be designing an end of my box. So what we're looking at now is what we call thumbnails. So I'm going to take an A4 bit of paper, I'm going to put it landscape, and take a rule by all means and help yourself. I want a couple of ideas. Use a rule to create a rectangle in here. Now I'm doing it kind of light just now. I'm going to do 2, one on top of each other, and they're kind of in proportion for a Jaffa cake box, that it would fit in the side of a Jaffa cake box. Doesn't have to be the full size of it, could be a wee bit smaller. Now, last lesson I wanted you to think of a name for what you were doing. I had a couple of names. Mine were going to be Jaffaus and they were going to be Carty's Crackers. So, Jaffaus I was going to do up here, and I'm saying to myself, well, how was I going to position this? Well, I wanted maybe some of the biscuits over here, picture of some of the biscuits, and I was going to have my main text box, my main logo for Jaffaus over here. So I'm going to sketch that in there, Jaffaus. And the same down here, I was wanting this was a kind of short breaded type biscuit, and it was Carty's Crackers they were called. So I was going to do a wee tartan effect in there, and again what I was going to do was some of the biscuits over here and maybe some of the biscuits over here. It's what's called a balance, and down the middle I would have 2 text boxes which would be Carty's Crackers. So I'm looking at this one here, and then I'm looking back at the box, the previous box that I had, and I'm saying to myself, well, what happened here? We can see there's this represents an orange peel coming in here like that. There's a staggered thing to represent an orange peel coming down there, and that might work for me. There's also what we call a tagline, and in this one it says passion fruit flavour. Now I'm going to change mine, and I'm going to call mine, because it's Jaffa out of Disney, Aladdin, I'm going to call it a genie, as in a genius of a biscuit. Or is it a cake? Right, is a Jaffa cake a biscuit or a cake? That's a debate that's went on for time immemorial. Now, what I'm doing there is I'm sketching down thumbnails, and the same down here. These are going to be called Carty's Crackers. So up here I maybe want a formal logo. This is the name of the company, Carty's, and down in here I'll maybe contrast it, and I'll get what we call a scripted font. A sort of tartan on the side there, and I'm looking at 2 wee designs. So that's design number 1, design number 2. What I then want you to do is to take it a wee bit further and add a wee bit of colour and expand it all. And you can see on here I've taken Jaffaus, a genie of a cake, I've decided to call it a cake, and we'll add it in here. If you can draw a Jaffa cake in here. And I'm using a combination of coloured pencils, liner pens, etc, etc. So wee bits of colour this in. And if I use a yellow on the outside, it acts as a highlight and it makes it stand off the page. So even though I'm not an artist, it makes things look better when we use a highlight on them. And I would do the same down here, and here you can see I've laid it out. I haven't drawn my biscuits, so I was going to draw some wee shorty biscuits over here. And these were like wee mini shortbreads, wee round mini shortbreads. And there's kind of a tartan effect in the back there. One way of doing a tartan effect is to take a couple of coloured pencils and run them one way, run them the other. There we go. And you get a wee tartan effect. I've not coloured my logo in here, but I would colour the logo in, and you would line it all in and make it all look good. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to create 2 thumbnails, and then you're going to create a better one, which is called a working rough, a rough drawing. Doesn't have to be perfect, okay? And you're just basing it on one of your ideas for a biscuit. So thumbnail 1, thumbnail 2, working rough. That's your lesson for next week. In the classroom, when we come back, we're going to make these on the computer and we will put them onto a development and we'll make a box and we cut it out. But that's for another day.